Hello, and welcome to an Unconventional Guide to Success, where we are exploring concepts and discussing real life examples showing that the path isn't linear and the journey to success is self defined. My name is Linda Misegadis,
And I'm Scott Montgomery.
and we will be your guides. Relationships probably start more with the heart, right? I think that relationships very rarely start specifically with the head. There's something that connects you to a person or makes you think, I want to have more conversations with this person. So, kind of, I know in the book you say it's not what you know, it's who you know. So, again,
100%.
reversing what most
Yeah.
people will say, which is it's who you, it's, that it should be, it
What
is
you know.
what you know. And I think, the fact that you flipped that, I think was really interesting and said it is more important with who you know, not what you know. So can you talk a little bit about
Yeah.
that? Like, tell me why you
It's
feel
my
that way.
favorite thing. It's my favorite thing. And I would say that it is my life's work, who I
Yeah.
know versus what I know. It truly is. And, I would say that's how you and I have maintained our relationship, even with the gap we had in the middle there, where things sort of required us to go back and build on our own sides. When it's who you know, not what you know, and just applying what we've talked about today, there's opaqueness in relationships. I don't think
Right.
there's opaqueness in partnerships.
Yeah.
But in a new relationship, and I define this well with some of the folks that have really trajected my career, supported me trajecting my own career.
Right.
There was an opaqueness that I didn't have to see through in order to have the heart feeling that I knew this was the right person. And I
Yeah.
might even suggest that if you're one of those folks, it was in how you would respond to my heart statements or my heart actions.
Sure.
And I paid attention to that. Even if I didn't know where it was going to take me, I would trust that it was pure. I remember one of the folks that was one of my biggest mentors. Her name is Pat DeLella. She's one of my biggest mentors in life.
Yeah.
I worked for her in the mid 90s. She's now working for us at WorldGate. We've had every role in between us in family and in work for the last 30 years. And I'll never forget the day she interviewed me, sight unseen. I was referred into her office. I went and knocked on her office door, showed up in her office door, and she said, "Let's talk." And the next thing I know, I had a job offer to be on her team.
Wow.
When I went to my first staff meeting, it was in Philadelphia, and I described this in the book. There were
Yeah.
30 of us or so on the team. When she walked in the room, I actually felt her presence before I looked and saw that she came in. There's something I pay attention to in how I respond to the people I interact with.
Yeah. Yeah.
I pay attention to those things. And what I do to honor those things is I tackle the what. So if I
Yeah.
feel the connection with who, I then go tackle the what in order to
Yeah.
keep the who close.
Makes a
So
lot of sense.
and it's really served me well. It's really the key to instructions for the next generation. It's never what you know first. I don't
Right.
think it is.
Yeah. Yeah.
And what I do is honor the what by getting better, getting stronger, applying the feedback, trying to supersede the feedback with even better or more results than the
Yeah.
feedback provided. And as long as I'm with someone who's in a continual growth mindset with me, how do you fail that success?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, and it gives you an opportunity to reach back. So like your example with Pat is a great one where, for you've had this she helped you at some point and now you've come back and helped her in life as well. And I know that she's got an amazing relationship with your family as well. So
Yeah,
she's kind of become part of all of that, but it's that give and take throughout the years. And even though you left and went on to do other things from your relationship with Pat, you still find yourself back there, right? So you still find
100%.
yourself, connected in some way. And I think that those relationships, if they're the right relationship, you are always willing to reach back and pull forward when you need something, and they're there for you.
And you know what I would offer too, and this is really important for our viewers and for the folks we're trying to reach. Remember my story. When she walked into the room, I felt her aura.
Yeah.
In today's world, I don't feel aura in any email I ever get.
No. No, it's a really good point. And I think about that, you said that earlier in one of our in our intro episode, kind of talking about that, making the human connection. And I
Yeah.
think that's so important because you see it all the time in business, right? Where you don't know the tone of what
Right.
someone is writing. And so, you can read it and now it's your perception on how you're interpreting what they're saying, and
Mhm.
it could create, and then that elicits your own feelings, right? And it could make you angry or it could make you sad or whatever, and that may not even be what the intention is. And rarely do people then just pick up the phone and say, hey, let me clarify, or if I'm on the receiving end, call you and say, hey, I'm really upset by this message that you sent me, can you explain? Because generally it's not what you think it is. I mean, it's rarely, I so many times I've written emails or received emails, and when I really dig into it, it wasn't the intention. But I can't read intention in an email, like you said. It's got to be
Well,
the spoken word.
well, and it's not only does it have to be the spoken word, but the other thing I've learned in my old age and experience, and I learned this from the other relationship, her name is Melanie, who has taught me a lot in business. I make a
Yeah.
lot of reference to her in the book, but one of the things that she's taught me and that I now agree to for everyone I interact with is always start with they're not ill intended,
Yes.
and it
Yes.
will never fail you.
That's a
It will
really,
never fail
really
you.
good point. Yeah.
So it
Not
is a
to
good way
assume.
to, yes, always
Yeah.
assume positive intent.
Yeah.
And your response to that, at least for the first go around,
Absolutely.
your response to that then doesn't always require the human interaction. I mean, Linda, we can't be on the phone with each other all day long. So when I get an email
Right.
from you, I always assume positive intent.
Absolutely.
And it
No, I think
starts
that's a
there.
really good point.
It's the second
Yeah.
round of conversation that might require you to pick up the phone call if
Yeah.
someone's being an ass.
Right. Yes, because it does happen. Let's not pretend like
Yes.
everybody is not ill intended, because some people are for sure, and what they said is exactly what they meant sometimes. So, um, and so
Well, then we're going to talk
I
about
think
it.
that is,
We got to
yeah,
talk about it.
exactly.
I feel like it's going to be really something that isn't talked about much that
Yeah.
I think is really important to get out there. So I appreciate just even this dialogue with you, Linda. It's good.
No, I totally agree. Well, and a question that I have for you, because I know the relationships that you have, with like Pat and Melanie, and we haven't talked about Gretchen yet. We'll talk about her in a little bit. But in those relationships, you have both a business and a personal relationship with them. Talk a little bit
Correct.
about the balance in that too, because that can be challenging, again, because if you don't know how to delineate between the personal and the business, the waters can get muddy, and that can destroy a relationship.
It can. And for me, the words rules of engagement are really critical here. And, oftentimes they're spelled out in business and they're spelled out in intention.
Yeah.
So, I'm not sending personal emails to business accounts. I'm not taking advantage to a personal benefit in business. I'm
Right.
following the rules of engagement. I think it's really important. I also share my heart, and sometimes I'll be able to share in meetings. I don't necessarily share my heart in a meeting and make
Right.
reference to the personal things that are happening,
Yeah.
but it's just rules of engagement are the words that come up for me,
I
and
like
those are
that.
they're independent of everyone's relationships. So for me,
Yeah.
sometimes they get pretty rigid because of the way that we're supporting a customer, whether it be commercial or public sector.
Right.
Uh, Also, not everyone gets a front row seat. I listen to the tea leaves. I make reference to 4 or 5 people in the book. That's what it's
Right.
been. That's what it's been for 30 years. These are
Yeah.
not everyday findings, you
Right.
know. But I do feel like I honor those findings, and I will take them to the mat any day of the week.
So talk a little bit more though about, so in that situation, how do I make the decision if I'm a young person and I've got this great relationship that I've developed, and I think you can help me with something in business. I want something or I need something. Talk about how appropriate it is or isn't, right? To tap into, for me to come to you and say, hey Scott, I need you to do this for me. Is that okay? Like, is it all right for me to come to you in our relationship and say, "Hey, can
100%.
you do this?"
100%. So for me, it's always been the response to my heart that attracts me to the next event.
Yeah,
And you get a series of more events, the more my heart's exposed, but it's how you receive me or how I receive you that opens me up further. I can't tell you how many people have knocked on my door, come in here and said, I need advice.
yeah,
That's great. They didn't make the book. They're not what I'm
yeah,
talking about. And
yeah.
there is a feeling, there is a trust, and there is a notion of expanding on that that is not definable by me to you. It's
Absolutely.
it's got to be something that you're looking for. You can easily get advice from me every day of the week. I don't know that you're going to be in relationship with me.
I like that. Yeah, because I think that's important to also let our viewers know too. We're not implying that every person in your life all of a sudden is a relationship, right?
No.
People come in and out, and you're going to have people who think they're in a relationship with you, and they could be using the situation as well. And so, and that's the risk you take, right? When you lead with your heart, sometimes is that if you're it's hard then to maybe make that to see what's happening, maybe to recognize that maybe this isn't a real relationship. This is just someone who's trying to use me for something that they might need.
Yeah, no, it's hard to this has got to be independent judgment. My interest in this is to share with the young entrepreneurs and the emerging leaders. Pay attention to these relationships. They're going to matter. And
Yeah,
if you're feeling it, it's worth the inquiry. And not every one of them is going to satiate you,
yeah.
but you can honor every one of them.
I like that. Well, and in the book, you talk about the importance of networking and social capital. Could talk a little
Yeah.
bit about that.
Yeah, social capital is coming up all over the place in this conversation because social capital is, I mean, it's just what we should be doing to find success, in my opinion.
Yeah,
I've got a million stories about who knew who that got me there, that connected me to who that drove this success.
yeah.
When I moved to Arlington, Virginia, one of my coworkers introduced me to a friend of mine. His name was Jeff, and he owned a gym.
Okay.
Gyms are really important for me socially and physically because they for me create positivity and physical fitness, and they
Yeah.
perpetuate a good thing. And if you're there too, then we have that in common right out of
Right.
the gate.
Right.
And I have found a lot of success in friendships that have fostered positivity as a result. Their
Yeah.
foundation is pure. I've also met a lot of people I wouldn't want to talk to outside of the gym, so it's not
Right.
everyone.
Right. Yes.
When I was getting my real estate license and I was pursuing that vehicle for extra money and to take care of my family, my friend Jeff, 7 years later, said to me, I have a good friend I went to high school with. Her name is Jennifer, and she's a realtor at Keller Williams. And you should call her if you're interested in getting into real estate because she can help you learn the nuances of the game.
Yeah.
And I did. And the next thing I know, I've got a mentor in her and a reputation such that I was invited to buy into the practice
Wow.
because of who I was connected with, how I maximized that opportunity. And the only reason I ever met her was because of a friend of mine and my social capital
Yeah.
that I paid
Yes.
attention
Yes.
to. And it was a
Yeah.
one off. And I, in turn, sent gifts to Jeff and said, thank you. Here's dinner on me for the introduction on my
Right.
first transaction that yielded a commission check. You pay it forward, you pay attention to the tea leaves. It's just one of a million stories of you never know when someone can help you out on a human level,
Yeah.
indirectly or directly.
That's so true. Well, and that's actually a great segue into coaches, mentors, and advisors. We hope you enjoyed this episode of An Unconventional Guide to Success. In each episode, Scott and I will share experiences and relationships that have shaped us. Our next episode will focus on mentors, advisors, and coaches and the difference between each one. Coaching is unlocking a person's potential to maximize their own performance. John Whitmore. An Unconventional Guide to Success is an inspirational, motivated series hosted by Scott Montgomery and Linda Misegadis, recorded on Riverside.fm. Music, editing, and production by Logan Misegadis. Check out Scott Montgomery's new book, How Did You Get Here, and all the helpful related materials at www.howdidyouggethere.com. At the end of each episode, we would like to leave you with a few questions offered to guide you in your personal exploration of how relationships and experiences are building your success. Take time to reflect and write about what arises. Who in your life is bringing you closer to success? When was the last time you pursued a new relationship? How can new relationships support you on your path to success? Thank you for joining us on our journey. If you would like to reach out to us, our contact information is in the show notes.